What is my next challenge in daring to be human?
How do I connect with life?
How can I let go of my need for fixed answers in favor of aliveness?
How do I live free from the experiences that shaped me?
How can we be the change the world needs right now?
Join us weekly for stony conversations about life.
It is our mission to allow life itself to reveal to us the answers. Welcome to Chasing Thoughts. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. Welcome to Chasing Thoughts. Still morning for me over here in Bend, Oregon. 10 a.m. for Keith. It's afternoon.
Yeah, 1 o'clock.
Yeah, you've already had a lot of your day.
Yeah, not much to show for it.
I feel like my day ends at 3. Like, I don't want to do shit after 3.
Yeah.
I like getting up early. I like being super productive. And then around 3, like, I want to start winding down. Maybe I'll do some chores, clean up some. If I have to work late, it is not good. I'm not built for that.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm the exact opposite. Like
Yeah.
my things go slow, and then I'll go up until like Sandy gets home, and then we'll have dinner and stuff like that. And then when she goes to bed, I'll do like another hour, hour and a half. Like, so I have more energy later.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It's something that is so neat about working from home and the shift in culture and being content creators or all these jobs that let you align with your own rhythms.
Yeah.
That has been like the biggest gift I never knew I wasn't getting. Right?
Yeah.
I feel like my whole life I had to work. And, when I was a single mom, it was like I couldn't even go home early. I needed 40 hours on my paycheck. And when you are just on somebody else's schedule all the time, when you eat, when you go to the bathroom, when you wake up, when you don't realize how dishonoring that can be. And I feel like after my accident and as I get older and my body needs its own rhythms to be happy and like my psyche too, right? Mental and physical. And I just hope more people, with the change of technology and stuff can find jobs that let them do it their way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I saw a video from a psychiatrist, and she was talking about one of the best practices to start sort of like calm your nervous system, you know? Um, and it was just listen to your body. When you're thirsty, like once you hit that realization, go get a drink. Don't wait, whatever. And if you got to use the bathroom, once you have that realization, just go. you
Yeah.
know but there's a huge section of our day that's carved out where you can't listen to the rhythms of your body.
Not if you live in the normal 9 to 5 work world, you can't.
Yeah. And it's I don't know, I guess you have to like double down when you get home or something, but you have to go off a schedule.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm loving about this season of my life is just doing whatever I want when I want to. And it's not that I'm not working hard, but having the flexibility to respond to how I feel. It's everything to me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's a hard transition to make too.
oh my gosh. Yeah. And that's kind of what I want to talk about because we said we wanted to talk about like where we wanted to go with the show, kind of pipe dreams, and also like what's going on in our lives right now that's really blocking us. Like, what are we wrestling with? That's what we texted about, right? Is it, do I have it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've thought about it a lot since we were texting, and I realized I'm living my dream life right now. And you talk about like manifesting and things like that. Like I manifested my dad to move here, my sister to move here, right? Friends. jobs I love, doing a podcast, right? You know how many people I talk to and they're like, "Oh, I've been wanting to do a podcast for a long time." Like, fucking doing it. Like, just everything in my life, right? I have a great marriage. It's going so well. I have my flexibility of time. We have enough money. Like, I have never been so happy. And when I think about the future of the podcast and where I want to go with my business, it could get so good. I don't even know how to like c- describe how good it would be for me and what a dream come true, like how much I'm living the life I dreamed of for 30 plus years, right? Like most of my life. And that is terrifying. Like I try
Yes.
so hard
Yeah.
to lean into the gratitude and just be like, thank you, thank you, thank you. But there is terror like right here that's just like, "Ooh, I want to come up and grab you." Like I feel it. And that is my biggest block. Like how
Yeah.
what is my relationship with this fear? And it feels so like animalistic, right? Like so much part of my animal self that's like, we've kept you alive. We're going to keep keeping you alive, right? You've got to be aware all the time. You can't get too happy, right? Like this fear that's so visceral. And if want to go where I want to go, I have to develop a new relationship with that. And I don't know what the F that looks like. So that's where I'm at today. Like, I would love to explore, like, what does it really look like to change your relationship with fear? Because all of us have it. It's not going to go completely away, right? Like, there is an animal part of us, and some of us have more PTSD or anxiety. But yeah, what do you think?
I think you perfectly described where both of us are right now. Um, yesterday I got so much done. Dude, I downloaded CapCut
Oh,
for
yeah.
for the desktop
Yeah.
and like the app, and I'm loving that thing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Oh my God. Yeah, I feel like a movie editor just like sitting there and I'm like, oh, I'm changing the color, changing the contrast, filters, just playing with all this stuff. I'm like, I feel it made me so freaking happy doing that.
Yeah, and it's pretty intuitive learning how to use the tools and like you can have it put captions on your videos and it'll automatically do that and it's a great tool and I did that yesterday too and I had so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It is, and I'm sure there are tons of videos that you can watch how to learn how to use it in depth. But like you said, it's very intuitive. Like I haven't watched anything, any tutorials on it, and it's so easy to pick up. It's very, very user friendly. I feel like we're doing a commercial right now for
You
Cap.
know,
So put in, yeah,
to sponsor this episode.
put in promo code weed and get 20% off.
It's
Oh
hilarious.
man, yeah, CapCut, reach out, man. But all right, so yeah, that well, but yeah, so I've been having the same exact feeling. And what made me think of that is because when I get into the work, I sort of lose it's meditative, so I sort of lose the thought. I'm completely present and I lose all of that fear. But even like right now, and even like when you were, moving, like showing down here in your stomach, I feel this like tightness in my stomach and tightness in my chest. And it's almost like my brain is yelling at me 24 hours a day, like, what the fuck are you doing? And like you said, like to keep me safe. It's shocking to me to see that even getting what we want, our comfort zone not only has a basement, but it has a ceiling to it. And it is developing a new relationship. And I think belief is one of those fundamental blocks of like emotion. We all have different triggers, we all have different things we get happy and excited about. But when you get down to like the atomic level emotionally, like belief is one of those foundational things. And what gives me hope for having this new relationship with fear is what we just did, going from doing a business to being creators and artists.
Mhm.
And how for me that sort of, I had that wall there that would stop me when I thought of myself as I own a business, I'm running a business. And then it was almost like a teleportation, like Star Trek, man, like they just booped me onto this other side when I started thinking of I'm an artist, I'm a creator.
Mhm.
I'm a stoner storyteller.
Yeah.
And that's what gives me hope, that all of this fear of, and when it comes down to it, it's, I'm not good enough.
Right.
That is this is gonna prove to me that I am not good enough. And my nervous system doesn't, I mean, all of our nervous systems don't want to face that.
Yep. Yeah.
And it is kicking my ass.
Yeah. It's really, as Brene Brown would say, getting into the arena, like fully showing up and going after something that feels so incredible and that you're so in love with that the idea of losing it or it crashing or right or being judged, right? Like all those things, the loss of it, I'm not good enough to sustain this, whatever it is very real.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It's always amazing to me how I can change a belief system or reframe a thought. And then, like you said, it's like teleportation, right? You're like, oh, I see it differently. So,
Yeah.
because both of us have had those types of experiences, we know this is going to be like that too, right? We don't quite see the way around it right now. But if we investigate, we might find the answer. Right? That little nut that goes like click and then everything flows again. That's what I always tell my clients. If you feel like you're pushing a rock uphill with your growth, you're not doing it right. It's searching and investigating and then finding the one nut, think, and then everything flows. But
Yes.
you don't quite like, I don't know if this fear is this my poverty in my childhood? Is this my mom leaving when I was young? Is this like, why do I have things that are overactive in my fear department? Is it childhood stuff? Or is it just the world I live in, which always tells me be afraid? And that's what I see on TV. And that's what right? What is creating this fear is my first question. And then, second, yeah, like, what's my relationship with it? I'd like to know both those things.
Yeah. 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 I think the creation aspect is everything. It's all of that combined, which
Yeah.
makes it a hard thing, because then it's like, all right, do I deal with, the past, this is reminding me of something in the past and it's telling me to stay away from it? Do I deal with that? Do I deal with the society, like you said, that is always wanting us to be afraid? And then you have the sort of entertainment world,
Yeah.
that there's a standard of beauty and success that is, I mean, even like a lot of models and actresses will say, like, I don't look like that. You know what I mean? And when you see that, like, pictures of them, just on the street or whatever, it's like, wow, they look more like a normal person.
Mhm.
Y- You know, so we have this standard of success that is so high, and it comes with material possessions and material gains and all that sort of stuff. So it's all of that, and then it's our own personal belief about how we feel about it. And like, one of the things that I learned is that we all humans share two basic fears: that I'm not going to be enough, and that since I'm not, I won't be loved.
Right.
So everything comes down to these two core fears that we learn so early in our lives, that are so deep inside.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you go back for them, right? How do you ease that and soften that fear, right? Or whatever memories are lingering from childhood. bring them into alignment, become the one that's in control, right? Become the parent of these fears. Because right now, I think my fears, I've got like 51%. Right, like my fears, it used to be they were running the show more. I think
Yeah,
this
yeah.
last month or 2, like with what we've been doing in the personal growth work, I'm at like 51, but that's barely it. Like to
Yeah.
hold on to this dream and keep working, I need to be at like 80% at least over these fears, these little bitches. And what habits do I need, or what do I need to tell myself so that I can do that every day and practice it and practice it and remember it and remember it? What's real enough to me to pull me into that space?
And what if this is like the question I always ask myself, like, what if the answer is by ignoring them?
Mm, mm,
And so here's my thought. So to me, like those fears and my anxiety and all this feeling, they're like when you're on a road trip with kids and that are in the back seat and like you're on my side. No, you're on my side. Are we gonna be like, and they just don't stop. And you sit there and you try to take it, and you try to focus on like, oh, we're going on vacation or whatever. But at a certain point, like either my mom or dad's hand was always flinging around the seat, like just waving wildly, like just trying to get us to shut up,
mm.
So it demands our attention. And the more we focus on it, even focusing on not wanting to feel it or why am I feeling it, we're focusing on that feeling. And then our brain gives us more of that feeling.
Right. So really the trick is, what is the opposite of that, or what do you want to feel, so we can put our focus there?
Yeah. And then the way, because the way you were describing your
Yes.
dream life, like when you got into that, I mean, there was a change.
Mm,
You like kind of glowed with everything that you were saying.
yeah. I've
So
seen that happen to people. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, you're right.
so what if it's really just and ignoring is a harsh word because you want to honor your feeling, but accepting, say, okay, I'm really anxious right now.
Right.
That's trying to drive my focus into this thing of like, why am I feeling this way? I need to figure this thing out so I can answer it, and that answer will make it go away.
Right.
Instead of looking at, I'm going to keep my focus on the horizon.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
I
know,
like that a lot. I feel like for me, how that would look in my life is when I feel that come up, I'd say, like you said, like, oh, I recognize my fear is trying to like run the show right now. And then like pause and do a 10-minute meditation, especially because I like to make my own meditation. So like I could make a meditation of my future vision or what I need to hear, realign, and then get back to my day or get back to work. Like that, I've been trying to deal with myself in that way. When I notice my brain going to a crazy place, it's like, time out. I don't keep working. I don't keep doing whatever I'm doing. I actually go spend some time trying to like change my mindset. And it's been really helpful.
yeah. Yeah, and I think it's important too to understand that doing that won't necessarily make the feeling go away.
Right. Yep.
Because then I start to ask myself, what is my expectation of this? Is my expectation of this to be able to overcome this fear, change that belief system that's driving this feeling that I don't like, or is my expectation to get the feeling to stop?
Right. Who's texting me? Yes.
Was that your phone?
Yeah.
That was the
Have that
best
Peter Griffin text. Yeah.
ringtone I've ever heard.
Yeah. Isn't that great? I downloaded it from somewhere. It's like, hey, who's texting me?
It's so awesome. Yeah, because I just hear and you know how much I love Peter
Yeah,
Griffin.
you're the person who needs that key. If you got to
Yeah.
Google and download Peter Griffin ringtone, because that's
Yeah.
like your.
Oh, that's so awesome. Um, yeah. So yeah, that.
uh, so tell me, what is the thing that you really want? Like, what would be your focus So when something comes up and you're like, no, like that dream that makes you glow when you talk about it, what are the aspects of that?
So I want to basically, like you said, enjoy that freedom
Mhm,
and free my mind from um preconceived ideas of what that freedom means. You know what I mean? Take away the good or the bad. I want to spend my day watching documentaries, reading books, smoking weed. Like it opens my mind up the way I picture it, and I just smoked before we come on, so I'm like, I'm feeling that right now. I feel like the top of my head is just like wide open, and the way I picture it in my mind is you ever see like those books like on a in a movie or something, if it's gonna be a fairy tale story, it's like all ornate and everything. Yeah, it opens up and like the story kind of comes up out of the book. That's what my mind feels like when I smoke and then focus it on this stuff, on what we're doing and all the stuff I'm learning. And it feels like I move through like, hyperspace on Star Trek. Um and I feel the focus, that the line that just pulls me.
mhm,
And it's almost like this never-ending thing of all of these realizations and ideas and thoughts that just fly by my mind that I can there's so many of them, but I can grasp onto each one, momentarily. And that's why I like making my videos when I'm like that, you know. And that's what I want to do, do that and figure out those puzzle pieces and explore and figure out exactly who I am, the parts that I can see and understand, and also the parts that we don't have, like our senses can't comprehend, that
mhm.
consciousness part.
Yeah,
And then just if people want to come along for the ride, great. If they don't, great. It's just what I want to do.
yeah. Yeah, I think for me, there's 2 parts. One that's very similar to yours, just know myself and research things I'm passionate about and read all the personal development books and right, I love that stuff so much. Talk about it on podcasts, right? That's what I want to do. But I also have a desire to figure out like play in the world in such a way where I figure out how do you make money as an influencer and what is content creating and how do you link the like I have fun playing in that entrepreneurial world. And so for me, like I spend so much time watching educational videos and that kind of stuff, how to make better videos, how to do this, especially now that these last couple of weeks as you and I've changed this idea. When I think of myself as an artist, I'm like, oh, I need to spend time learning how to do my craft. And so it's totally changed the way. And I'm so thrilled with how much I've learned. But being financially successful or making beautiful videos or figuring out how to get paid from a brand for making a beautiful like to me that is also part of the fun of what I want in my future. Because to me
Yeah.
that stuff is fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely want to be able to support myself by doing this. And I think I found out a way that I can do it that aligns like very well with me. Offering like we were talking about like the Patreon thing for very cheap, you
Yep.
know, and then some other ideas and stuff. And that is a cool and like a fun part of that. Um, so yeah, I think you're right. Like being able to do this and just being able to like just play with our lives and make money from it. Who was the dude that said that? Get paid to play.
Yeah, I can't think of who said that either.
Yeah, geez. Alan Watts.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, being able to do that, just what a dream, man.
right, I know that's that big dream. So when you think about that, do you feel clear? Is it like good and you feel like, or is that some of that fear lingering onto it?
there's definite fear, because I have like a narrative in my head that that's just not how the world works.
Like, it's too good to be true.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's that's what mine says, is like, what you're thinking of is too good to be true. And it must be, the next sentence must be like, "And you don't deserve something that good," right? Or it has to be, go back to unworthiness, because like you said, that's the crux of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
And
I'm not good enough to get that done,
yeah,
to make this happen.
yeah,
Yeah. So there's a big part of that. But interestingly, though, while I was talking about that, and something I just realized, because I had that, now I got that feeling back, of the tightness in my stomach and in my chest. When
yeah.
I was talking about that, though, I don't remember anything else I was thinking about. And a lot of times when I'm talking, like the voice in my head can be louder than what I'm saying. So like that's why it's easy for me to forget what I was talking about. But none of that was happening,
Mhm.
and everything was relaxed.
Yeah,
So yeah, I mean, I feel completely aligned, clear, whatever, like whatever word best describes it. I feel me
yeah.
in the moments doing that.
I would agree. I feel, it's almost like more separated from those two places. Like, I feel so me and so strong and so, and then I also have this fear, but they're not all commingled, right? It feels like they're more separate than they have been previously. But I do know, this is interesting because I thought of this while you were talking. Sometimes I can say something and I can feel in my body how true I believe that thing is, right? So if I say, I think it's totally possible to make a lot of money easily and having fun the whole time, I can feel where I believe that, and it is not at 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that's the belief that I'm growing right now every day. It's like, no, it is possible. You can love your life and you can make money and you can help people and you can have all your friends and family. You can have all of it. It's okay, right? Like, it's okay to be happy. And just telling myself that over and over and over again, almost like soothing a child. And maybe that is soothing my inner child. Like, it's okay. Yep, you can have it all. We're gonna go get ice cream too, right? Like, really
Yeah.
being like this soothing part of myself to just treat it more like that, right? Like it's the whiny kid in the back of the car with love, but also with like, all right,
Yeah, and that's where, I mean, just treating yourself right, like having love for yourself is so important. Like even Jack Cornfield, who, I from what I understand, like he went over to Tibet or somewhere, like lived as a Buddhist monk for 20, 30 years, and now he came back to the States, and he's doing like a consciousness type school and stuff, but wrote a lot of books and everything. And I heard him on a podcast talking about when that stuff comes up, you literally saying like, thank you for keeping me safe. I appreciate that, but I don't need it right now. And when
yeah,
I heard that, I was like, that is the stupidest thing I ever heard. But you get to a point where you're like, I'm willing to try something stupid. It'll only happen in my head, so nobody will know I'm doing it.
totally.
So I tried it, and it was weird because I felt a relief in the anxiety attack I was having.
Yes. And
Oh,
then you get to stay in the vibration of gratitude,
yeah.
right? And that's where, when you get into the flow, right? It's being in those like higher vibrations of gratitude and love and passion. That's what the flow is. And so you don't want to get out of that space. And so if you stay in gratitude, you're like, thank you for bringing this to me. I don't need
Yeah.
it.
And all situations, like we always talk about, like it's how we respond, not how we react to the situation, but how we respond to them. You can say, okay, what I'm feeling is bad, right? So I'm putting a negative connotation on it, and now I'm gonna get upset. I don't want to feel this. Why am I feeling this way? In fact, in Buddhism, they call it the second dart. The
Yeah.
first dart is what you're feeling. It's inevitable. You are feeling that. The second dart is the one that we hit ourselves with, where we get upset and we create even more negativity inside, because of that first dart. or you can come at it, like you said, from a place of gratitude, like Jack Cornfield was saying, like, I thank you. Yeah, I understand what you're trying to do. You're getting the result that you want
Wow.
and keeping yourself in a more loving and grateful place.
Yeah. I love that, and it also helps me realize I still have the tendency to want to fix things or fix myself, and how I believe just like nobody wants to be fixed, right? Nobody wants to be fixed. That feels super icky. I think sometimes it's the same with our feelings. Like they don't want to be fixed, right? The inner child doesn't want to be fixed. So when you come out of that fixing position and just let it be what it is, oh, here you are. You're doing this. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Then it kind of calms down because it's like, oh, you're not trying to fix me anymore. Like I can relax a little bit. I feel like that happens to the feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's one of the dangers of turning everything into a disorder. I mean, it's clear that there are things that can go wrong with the mind,
Mhm.
or with the brain. But turning anger, turning sadness, anxiety, like everything being a disorder,
Yeah.
we see it as something's wrong and now it needs to be fixed. But how we are, like the meme that you had sent me, how we're all stardust, but we're also poop particles too. So calm down. I love that. But we're, I mean, we're from the universe, and the universe exists specifically because of the imperfections in it.
Mm.
So the imperfections in us are what make us different
And it
from,
sounds like you're saying, and whole, right? It makes us whole.
yeah.
You
And the
need
thing that
both.
screws us is thinking about it as imperfections.
Mm, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, I don't know how to not do it. I just, that's like one of those things that I feel is true inside.
Yes.
And now it's just trying to explore and investigate ways to connect with that.
Yeah. And I think what you just said and what's come up a couple times is worth noting is you and I have both taken the time to be able to recognize truth in our bodies, to know, like to be self aware enough to go, I can say this and I feel it's true, right? I feel truth from you. Right. And how important that is to cultivate if you want to go on the personal growth and development journey. Like that's key. And that's why you have to slow down and you can't just stay in the hustle and really busy all the time because you won't be able to know yourself enough to be able to really like navigate your feelings, I think.
And it's sucks doing that. Like it was one of the things that surprised me, and I think that kept me stuck for a while after I started, um, was realizing that the pain is gonna get a little bit worse before it gets better, because you're gonna confront it,
Yeah.
and it reminds me, like, in my head, I see, like, this. You ever, like, in a scary movie, they close the medicine cabinet and they see themselves in the mirror, but it's like this disgusting, like, putrid version of themselves. I feel like that's what it is. It's staring into the face of what I see as my demons, the worst part of me,
Mhm.
and really developing a relationship with them, because they're always going to be a part of me.
Yep.
Like, I have the capacity to go back to that place.
Mhm.
So it's having a relationship with them instead of defeating them or banishing them or like all this other stuff. I mean, being alive is a spectrum,
Mhm.
but we have this idea of shutting off everything beyond a certain point, beyond like this neutral contentment, all the negative stuff. We need to shut it off because that means we're broken.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is live half a life,
Mhm.
and it's impossible.
Yeah. I also want to say I think that this is a really good time to talk about plant medicine or even other types of drugs because for me, you know, in a couple different directions, being able to do, mushrooms and face some of those darker aspects and have to surrender and have to continue to find self, I guess, is so valuable and helpful in a journey, right? And you practice it there, and then you know how to do it here in real life, right? Like, I feel like that gave me a practice run sort of to learn how to navigate stuff, and I think it's really cool, and I think drugs like MDMA have allowed me to see the love part and the total acceptance part and help burn those pathways in my brain so that I know where the trail is.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
I think that's the gift of drugs is helping you see like, okay, this is the trail. And you go, oh, okay, I get it. And then you get to grow that direction.
Yep. Yep. Since I started with mushrooms, there's been a constant narrative throughout all of my trips, and it's the idea of flowing, you
Yeah.
know, just acceptance and flowing in like that river that life is going to take us.
But that's complete surrender.
Complete surrender.
And that, when you have been raised your whole life to be in control of yourself and control of your life in this way, A, B, C, D, E, right? Letting go of all that, whether your outside life changes or not, you have to be. I love this. Glennon Doyle says this in one of her books. She says, you have to be willing to burn it all to the ground. Like,
Yeah.
you have to have that level of surrender for it to work. And that gives me chills in my body when I say it, right? Like, I feel that. It's
Yeah.
huge.
Imagine what the world would look like, especially our country that has an incredible high rate of people on mental health meds, and therapists and stuff like that. But imagine if that was taught how to do that, and there's not one way. Like, we all have to figure out our ways, but I truly believe there's these elements to it, belief, identity, perspective, and they all kind of work together,
Yep.
you know, but if we can learn how to develop those things so that we can focus our mind and our energies towards those things and not just, this daydreaming aspect of it, but taking the action to move through it, you know, imagine just what would happen. I think pharmaceutical companies would start going out of business, man.
And I think, hold on, let me back up. Over the past couple months, as I have increased my self love, I've also noticed a huge increase in my hope for humanity. And I don't know if they're connected, but it's been interesting to me. And I see so many people wanting a better world and healing themselves and knowing that it starts with them and passing along the message. I'm going to heal me and then I'm going to help heal you and you. And I just see that everywhere I look, I feel like now, which is such a gift because I put boundaries around where I get my news and this and that. And it's a whole nother conversation. But the news is never going to report that stuff to us.
Mm-mm.
Right, like, they operate off fear, they're like a profit-making machine off fear, so, like, it doesn't mean that it's not happening, that's why it's so important to seek other sources, and I've been loving that so much, this hope for humanity and for what you're saying, maybe people will do this, maybe people will use more plant medicine, maybe people will really deeply heal, and there will be another renaissance of sorts.
Yeah, and I truly believe it's starting to happen. Like, I feel that optimism too. I know even the VA, I believe they are going to start using MDMA for PTSD. It's like, man, it's going to be amazing. You know, and I can't. For me, I started with cannabis. and I had to learn prior to, because Sandy was completely against it. And so I studied its history, how it affects us, how it works, the dangers of it. I studied all of that for about 2 years. And every once in a while, I would just talk to her about it, and then finally she was like, all right, you just go ahead and try it. So she thought like it was going to do absolutely nothing, and then like a month later, she was telling me, why don't you go in the garage and smoke? Because I was angry, I was getting frustrated, whatever it is. Um, and the cool thing is like the smoking is gonna calm you and stuff like that, but it's not gonna make that go away. So that I would not only would I go out and smoke, but I'd take my iPad out there and I watch a documentary or docuseries, something on archaeology or the space or cosmos, whatever, something I get into, and the cannabis connects me with that feeling of wonder, but then just makes it my world.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and just the gratitude that, so I would come back inside feeling amazing.
Yes. I love that because it's like know your power sources, like your battery packs and where you can plug in. And then, yeah, use weed or something to make that even bigger. And that's how you stay more in the vibration. I've heard people say, the more you love your life, the more your life will be something to love, right? That it's loving things that's opening that door. So learning how to plug into that so that your feelings are in love and awe and your vibration is, that I think is key. Like that's what I mean when I tell people they need their own recipe. Like what's your things? How do you plug in to and make this work? And you have to know that, and I don't think a lot of people know that.
No,
Yeah.
no. And you're not going to find that out living defensively,
Nope. Nope.
because
Or
when you're
being a
living,
people pleaser, right? I
yeah,
had
I was actually thinking about this. Tell me what you think. So one of the things that one of the like little my pet peeves is how this idea that being nice is a trauma response. Now, and they always say like, okay, like people pleasers, being so nice that, and that's the trauma response, right? But I don't equate that with being nice. So my question is this: is people pleasing actually disguised selfishness?
I think it's a way to get a need met, certainly.
So yeah, and that
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 would
was
get selfish, right? Because, um, so for example, I used to have a lot of people pleasing tendencies. And when I say people pleasing, I mean, and I think this is part of being in an emotionally abusive marriage, right? You learn to read their cues and then do or be who or what they want. That's like what I call people pleasing, right? That you're not doing things by your rhythms, but you're trying to do something by someone else's rhythms. And I did that because I thought that that was the way to be lovable, like to mold myself around another person. And so, um,
and take away the negative connotation of selfishness too.
so I guess it allowed me to feel loved, right? Even though it was an unhealthy way of love, if it was a working mechanism in my life.
Right. Right. And that's what I was thinking of. Like when I did that, I was doing it to achieve a certain thing, to
Right.
look
It's
Christian.
manipulation, right? In a
Yeah.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm being manipulated. It is an abusive thing that creates that in somebody, like, in your case, a abusive marriage, but it's a way for you, and it's a survival thing.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and survival is selfish, but again, take away the negative sort of belief around that, because you are trying to to survive yourself, you know? And
Yep.
that's why like people that put their own lives in danger to save somebody else, I mean, it's luckily there's a lot, but it's still kind of rare, you know, because the instinctual drive is to save yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and in that way, I started looking at like my people pleasing as more about myself. It's
Mhm.
more about making myself feel better from not feeling guilt for not doing something that somebody convinced me I had to do.
Yeah.
And that came with a lot of stuff where I had to understand that the belief system that I'm operating off of is not mine, but it was given to me. And then change that belief system, which again is another big step. For myself, come to the realization that that people pleasing is not kindness, but it's a selfishness on my part, but not, you know, and when I say that, I'm not blaming myself or saying it's bad. It's
Yeah.
survival.
Yeah.
It's bringing my focus towards me.
Yeah. I love your example because this is actually a coaching technique, but it's an abrasive one, so I don't ever use it. But it's just what you're saying. If somebody presents you with a negative situation, I hate this person, they're always doing this to me, or this is the worst. You say, like, what are you getting out of it? Because you're getting something, one of your needs is being met, something is in it for you. And if you find that thing and replace it in a different way, you won't need this anymore. But it's hard for a lot of people to hear that because like you said, it's associated, there's so many right, wrong, good, bad, all these blames and judgments that you can't navigate it easily with another person, right? Or even within
Yeah,
yourself, right? It's
right. Yeah,
hard
because
to
if you
tolerate.
said that, like if I'm mad and you're like, okay, well, how is this serving
Right.
you?
That's
Screw
not
you,
gonna,
man. What are you
right.
talking about? Yeah, I mean,
You can't hear
defensive.
that. But you
Yeah,
can use that tool within yourself if you're strong enough within yourself to go, okay, Mindy, you've had this fight with your husband 4 times now. What are you getting out of this? What are you getting out of keeping your position so that this isn't getting resolved?
right.
Right? What are you getting out of like, and really ask myself the hard questions so that I can move forward. But that's hardcore personal development work. It ain't
Yeah,
easy.
yeah, and that's like one of those things of like facing your own personal demons.
So much so, yeah. You're like, oh shit, I do this because of this, and like I am doing this. Like, oh,
Yeah, because
okay,
even with that example, is people pleasing just disguised selfishness? Like, let's just say I'm 100% wrong,
right.
but because I'm able to give my own meaning to things,
Yep.
that resonates with me.
Yes.
And I'm
Agree.
like, all right, I don't want to do that. You know, I want to push my focus outward onto others, you know. And when I talked about like even on some videos about, you know, what I do with Sandy, I've been told like by quite a few comments that I'm not taking care of myself. This is an unhealthy relationship. You know, all this stuff. And then when I respond to those, like I'm not saying I let her walk all over me.
Yeah.
You know, if she does something that frustrates me, I'll tell her that that pissed me off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I won't yell and scream at her, you know. But other than that, if she wants me to hang a dish towel up when I'm done doing dishes, I'll hang it up instead of just what I normally did was just throw it on the counter. Because I'm like, all right, I'm done. Dry my hands off, done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's that's just me putting her need first because I don't want to be right. I want to be with her.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. One of the things I love that my husband and I do is kind of talk about our feelings in the third person. So, like, this is really silly, but I have this tiny blanket that I use all the time on the couch. And he folded it up and put it away the other day. And like he left other shit out. And I'm like, why'd you put my blanket away? See, this is like so silly. But he had whatever his reason was. And then I just say, like, my feelings are telling me that they're hurt right now and to be mad at you. And like, I need a minute. Like, I realize this is ridiculous, but my feelings were what they were. I got triggered for some reason. It was a dumbass reason. And it was nice just to be able to say, like, I'm triggered, like my feelings are being weird right now. Let's give them a minute." And acknowledge what was happening, but in such a way that we're both on the same team still.
Right. Because what we normally do is instead of acknowledging, okay, this is the way I feel, like I, my feelings are like kind of out of my control.
Yeah,
They're just going to come, but you didn't respond to it. You know what I mean? You just acknowledged it and then allowed the feeling to take its course, just went with the flow of it.
yeah. Because ultimately, I have a great marriage, a husband that loves me, and arguing about a blanket is stupid. But that's what my feelings wanted me to do, right? My feelings wanted me to argue about the blanket, but you can't live from that place, right? You have to go like, no, and then you choose a path that's going to be less conflict.
Yeah. I mean, as much as I've learned to love my emotions and I think they're such an incredibly powerful place to live from. Um, your emotions, your feelings can definitely skew the narrative in your head and get and tell you a meaning for something that is so far away from the truth,
Mhm. Yeah.
so being able to think about it from a higher place, is so important.
Yeah, your feelings are one piece of information, right? You have feelings, you have your thoughts, you have your intuition, right? You have all these things. Feelings are just one piece of information. And being able to operate in that truth has been life changing for me. And now, even when I interact with other people, sometimes I'm like, oh, you're just totally operating from your feelings. I get it. Like, you don't know yet that you don't have to do that. I did that once upon a time too, just did whatever my feelings told me to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's natural. I mean, like we even always talk about like these feelings are coming up. Our feelings generate in older parts of the brain, like that fear center. You know what I mean? So it's survival, it's instinctual. So many times, I don't know the times it takes, but it takes an experience to be like processed and get to the fear center quicker than it does to get to the prefrontal cortex. So by the time we're able to logically think through a situation, we're already reacting.
Yeah.
So it's all about training ourselves to slow that process down and not react when our feelings coming from that fear center and that survival instinct kicks in and tells us that because your husband folded your blanket and put it away, that means he now hates you. You know what I mean? Because like that's kind of like I know that always would be where I went with Sandy.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I can't take up space in this house, right? Like some kind of
Yeah,
bureaucratic bullshit.
yeah. You always blame everything on me. Like, yeah,
Yeah, and now I just see that stuff as being hilarious. Like, it's because it's so in the game, which is
yeah.
fine, right? Sometimes we get lost in the game, but that's the game playing out, right? Yeah.
And that's like that's the hope I have, is that I feel that there's an understanding that's going around that the way that we live life is a game, and
Yep.
it's a game that other people are playing and we're just part of the pieces.
Yep.
And then people are really beginning, it seems, to move more towards living, experiencing life, and that's where joy and contentment and peace is found.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah, and when there's more joy, peace, and contentment in a person's life, the easier and more compassionate they're going to be on the people around them because
Yeah.
they're healthier. That's why you can't that's why I always think it's funny, like, for me, I am such a, I guess, socialist. I'm like, "I'll give up half my paycheck to know that, like, people everywhere have stuff." Like, to me, I don't care, I just want people well, I'd pay tons of taxes. But, I mean, more than that, nowadays, we have this reality that you could tax corporations, right? As technology comes up and everybody could have a universal basic income. And then that renaissance we spoke of before, you detach value from this doing drudgery of a job, and you put value towards art and advancement and painting, and you see a totally another renaissance. I think that's possible. That's
Yeah.
what my heart's pulling for. That's what I want to see for humanity. And the pieces are there, just like the pieces are there for the scenario. Right?
Imagine if we could, I mean, like planet wide, give up all these dumbass constructs that have been made of borders and stuff. Like, I mean, during colonialism, I mean, that's what drew everything. Like, look at, even before that, like the Roman, all the empire building and stuff, just conquering as much land because that's mine. But I think we're at a place like where we can just give all that up and just cooperate. Imagine what we could do, like as just as a species.
And people say, oh, man's always been greedy, or oh, it's always been this way. Like they think that that kind of change is not reasonable. But when you look at big, long evolution and you're like, oh, we didn't have tools. Then we started using tools. Then we learned how to communicate, right? Like huge leaps in consciousness. When you look at it in that scale, you're like, oh, well, of course, someday humans will become more conscious creatures than they are now and operate in new ways with new tools. That's what we're talking about is, science being able to prove that your thoughts impact your body and like living within these truths and building a new world based on those truths.
Yeah, on the show, Seth MacFarlane's show Orville,
Mm-hmm.
they talked about. I thought it was going to be like sort of a parody of Star Trek, but it's not. It's a lot more funnier, but it's a pretty cool show, kind of like a Star Trek. But they talked about how they got to this place, and they were explaining how um the world kind of banded together and people basically didn't have to work anymore. There was enough of everything for everybody just to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people would do stuff, they wouldn't work for the necessity of money, they would work because it was their passion.
Yeah.
So everybody that's out on the starships exploring and stuff like that, they're there for their passion, not for anything else. And I really believe that we can have that, a society like that. And even Stephen Greer, who did the Unacknowledged movie, like the UFOs and stuff, like he talks about, he doesn't believe that there's an advanced civilization that's out there that is looking to destroy us, because in order to become an advanced civilization, you eventually have to evolve to that point of complete cooperation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because look at how divided we are right now, where I do believe we are moving that way, but how divided we are right now and the state of politics, environment, like, I mean, quality of life.
Yep. But it's kind of like we were saying last time that, like, in the sound waves of life, like the point is like the greatest convex is the next point is the greatest concave, right? And so even though things are dark right now, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's not the pain point necessary to open things up in a new direction, because suffering and pain points are often what opens the next wave of personal development, wave of evolution, right? Whether you're talking big or small, that's one of the uh, one of the reasons why it's important to have suffering, right?
Yeah, it sucks, but I mean, no growth comes without pain.
Yeah,
It's sort of like a foundational aspect of growth.
yeah, yeah. Well, I feel pretty good about our conversation. I feel really good about where we're both going individually and where the world's going, where the podcast's going. It's really good stuff. And
Yeah, I
I,
feel there's like a different energy too about our
yeah,
conversations and stuff. It's very cool.
yeah, it's interesting how the feeling of shared space and meditation and drugs, to me, there gets to be like this like gooey, dense feeling. Like
Yeah, Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it, but when I feel in the flow, everything feels kind of like gooey and dense around me. And I love that feeling.
Yeah, I'm feeling that so
Right?
right now, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of almost like deja vu in a way, like sort of that like just it feels so good and so rich. And yeah, this is the place I want to live in all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like getting a hug from the universe.
And when I think, is that possible to live in this space? Like, 100% of the time, is that unreasonable? I mean, of course, there's hardships and suffering and stuff, but I don't know. I'm curious about this new wave of, I guess, being the watcher that I've been experiencing lately.
Maybe that's what enlightenment is, you know, getting to the point where you're so open that you see suffering as
Part of the master plan of all life.
yeah, and in that way, it's a blessing in your life.
Yeah.
That's
That
not
is,
something I want to be like tried with though, man.
oh, that is one thing I like about I love reincarnation. I don't believe it, but I pretend to believe it because I love it so much. I love the way it makes me feel. I'm not 100% belief there yet. Maybe I'll be a believer someday, but the idea that in other lives I've played the role of the sufferer and now I play this role and now you play this role and we're all playing all the roles in different timescapes of this illusion. That I love that. That makes me feel really good. That belief system. I don't know if it's true, but I like it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's some big scale of this that we don't understand. And in that scale of things, I've been homeless and I've been tortured and I've also been the torturer and I've been the bully and I've been this and I've been that and I've played all the roles because it's just consciousness coming into human form to see itself in this big dance. Like, I fucking love that idea. I don't 100% believe it though. I don't know why. I love it, but something keeps me from like committing my belief to it.
And see that to me is a very, very interesting thing because the beliefs don't have to be true. They don't even have to be able to be proven true. They just have to align with you.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
so I have desire and love and openness towards this belief. And I also have a sliver of doubt or cynicism, right? Like something else is happening in me that is not allowing me to say, this is the way it is. This is the way I believe it is.
yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly what that is right now.
I used to be so scared of dying. Ironically, like I mean, all through my decades in Christianity, I was always afraid of dying. But now that I've taken on this new belief of when we die, it's more of a path to a different dimensional state, a dimensional state that we already came from. And I feel that same thing. Like when I say that, I'm like, oh, shut up, dude. You know, but I'm like, no, I love that though. I love that idea that the me who's like the higher version of self is going to go on. I'm going to
Yeah.
take these memories and continue to exist
Yeah.
uh, in a different form. That is so comforting. And then when I think about dying or something like that, it's more of a I still don't want to like rush into it. You know what I mean? But I'm okay
The
with
fear isn't there.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's no way I can prove this.
Right. But believing it makes your life better now and your experience of being in the moment better now.
Yes.
And what
Yeah.
else do you have but now? I mean, really, you don't know anything for sure besides this. I think that's what's powerful about beliefs. Like, if you're really living in the present moment, there is no other moment, there is nothing else. So, like you're saying, it doesn't matter if it's true or not, because
Right.
that's a future idea or an other, right?
Yeah, it'll be proven right or wrong
Right.
at some point, you know. Like we'll all have that point where our ideas of the afterlife will be proven right or wrong.
Yeah.
But for this moment now, I'm going to sit in this belief and it gives me peace.
Yeah. Do you know the band the Avett Brothers?
No.
I'm going to send you a link to this song. It's so beautiful. And some of the words are like when my body finally sets me free, right? Like this idea, like I'm in this body, and when it finally sets me free, will I be ready? Is
Mhm.
the line of the song. And it's just a really beautiful song about death and like this feeling you're describing where you're like kind of greeting an old friend, right? And you're like,
Yeah,
let's go to the next dimension. Let's go to the next play, whatever it is, right?
yeah,
But there's a welcoming home almost of it.
that's pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, but it's a weird feeling because I still have that like I don't want to experience that. That was the one thing I loved about, being a Christian. Like, I mean, my whole desire was to be raptured, so I would never have to die,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know? Um, yeah, that'd be like, man, so then I get lucky. I wouldn't have to go through whatever that is, whatever process that is, because it looks so horrible.
I'll reveal a judgment of my own. This is a story made up in my head. I have no idea if it's true, but I made up that story about my dad because my dad talks a lot about the rapture. He's still very heavily Christian. And every time he talks about it, to me, I feel like you're avoiding death, right? You're avoiding this thing that's coming towards you. Like when you get to, be our parents' age, like you're at the doorstep, so you better be pretty fucking comfortable with the idea. And I don't see that he's done that work. This is all my judgment. Maybe he has, right? Please, anybody listening know that I'm telling you more about me than I am about my dad, right? This is my judgments. And I feel afraid that when things get down to it, he's not going to be ready. And I want him to be ready and I want to be there with him. And there's this beautiful relationship that I want to have with my dad going into his final chapter that he's not ready to talk about because he doesn't want to admit that his final chapter is coming.
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of heartbreaking to me. And this is the story I made about my heartbreak, right? Who knows what the truth is? Who knows what he thinks? But ah, it's been interesting to live in, right? And like
Yeah.
talking about like a human experience, like, huh, okay. Some people are close to their parents, some people aren't, some people try this, some people, right? We all have these desires and lives, and it's rich. Like each experience can be really, really rich.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Especially those ones that you don't realize what they are until like,
Yep.
their time goes by and you're like, oh my God.
Yep. Yep. Well, speaking of that, I should go because I'm going on a little road trip last
Mhm.
night. My husband and I are homebodies. We don't go out to dinner. We don't go places. We just love being home. We both love watching sports. Like we're introverts. And yesterday we were talking about how much fun we had the last time we were at a casino and right playing Pai Gow poker. And then my husband's like, I bet we could get some rooms comp. Do you want me to call? And I was like, sure. And then all of a sudden we're going to Reno today. So
Nice.
yeah, so I'm very excited. So after this, I'm gonna go pack the car. And then my husband and I feel like I really love big disparate things. So I love backpacking and not showering for 2 weeks and walking 200 miles. And I love being in a casino for 3 days and not leaving the property and watching sports and playing slot machines. And like both of them are delicious aspects of my life. Now I can see where if you did this one too much, it could become unhealthy. but being able to, so could this one if you just, right? So it's about balance.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That's so freaking awesome, man. That is so cool,
So
dude.
hopefully I'll win a ton of money.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, win enough, dude. And then me and Sandy will move out your way and we'll build a studio.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, just a couple mil. That's all you need.
All right. Thank you, Keith, for a really great show.
Yeah, this was fun, man.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are so grateful for all of our listeners. Please support us in doing what we love. It's as simple as hitting that like or subscribe button. It would really mean a lot to us. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.